Hello folks, this is Jeff Phillips with SmokyMeat.com, and today we're going to be unboxing the brand new Smoke X4 by ThermoWorks. Let's get started. Now I've already opened the box and taken out the Smoke X4 operating instructions. I did want to look over this and make sure I was aware of all the specs and any details I might need to share with you. So I did do that. Let's go ahead and get this thing out of the package. Let's sit this down here out of the way. So this is the Smoke X4 by ThermoWorks in orange. And on the outside of the box it says RF wireless, which this is not Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. You know, it's uses the RF wireless, which is pretty typical for things like remote controls and that sort of thing. And of course it's got 4 channels, 4 inputs, 4 probes. It's splash proof. And of course down here at the bottom it says 6,562 feet transmission range. That's pretty shocking. That's just under 1.25 miles of range. So I'll be interested to try that out and see how that does. I don't know if that's straight line or how well that moves through and around objects. So we can take a look at it. I'm interested to see the features and how it functions and show those things to you as well. I really like ThermoWorks packaging. They do a good job, and there's a lot of attention to detail on how they package their products. You can just tell it's well thought out, just like the products themselves. I'll just show that to you. Most of the products come in a plastic type packaging like this, where everything has a spot, and of course that keeps things from moving around while during shipping, and kind of protects the unit until it gets to you. Of course, this is the sending unit. This is the part that's the part of the thermometer that stays at the smoker or grill. This is the receiving unit. This is the part that stays with you wherever you go. You can go in your pocket. I think it comes with a lanyard so it can attach around your neck. One thing I'm seeing right off the bat that I'm pretty excited about, let me just compare the two here. The original Smoke receiver, the bottom is rounded, and you couldn't really sit it on the table. They did end up creating a stand, a silicone stand that this would fit into and help it to stand up. But I just always felt like that was an oversight. I did complain about that a little bit in my review that I did on the original Smoke. But this new Smoke X4 has a flat bottom, and so it can sit on the table, and of course that, so I'm pretty excited to see that, because that's typically what you're going to do if you go to bed or you're in your chair or whatever. You're going to want to sit that right next to you, and I always had to sit the other one down like that or flat on the table, which makes it difficult to see the numbers. Let's just go ahead and get all this out of the box, and then we'll take a closer look at those. Of course, that's the lanyard. Take care of that later. This comes with 4 probes. One of these is what they call the air probe. Now these are the Pro Series probes, and this is the ambient probe that you would connect and keep close to down close to the grate where the meat is, and so you know your actual smoker temperature as the meat is experiencing it. This is the meat probes. I'm sorry. Now these are curved. makes it a little easier to stick that into the meat. And it's got 3 of those. There's 2. And of course there's 3. And then of course it's got the grate clip. Now that is for the ambient probe. You just basically, it's got holes through it here. You just stick that ambient probe through the holes and squeeze that together to put it onto your grate. And of course that's completely adjustable. If you need to adjust it out or in, you can do that carefully. And this allows the ambient probe to sit, a couple of inches above the grate, and gives you a real accurate reading of what the meat is experiencing as far as temperature goes. Back in the day, we used to use like a small potato. We'd push the ambient probe through a potato, sit the potato on the smoker grate, and it worked fine. And of course, we'd eat the potato afterwards. So then the company started coming out with these clips, which made it nice as well. You just can't eat it, of course, when you're done. Now these are some silicone rings for color coding. It comes with 4 different colors, 2 of each color, and you put one, of course, on the end of the probe, the back of the probe here, and then the other one at the end of the cable. And because when you get 3 or 4 cables running every which way, sometimes it's hard to tell which is which if you need to unplug one or move things around. And color coding kind of gives you a way it just kind of makes that process a little easier if you're into that sort of thing. Now it looks like these both of the units here have a battery pull on the back where it's keeping the battery from making a connection until you pull that out. So I'll go ahead and pull that. And that just came on, and this one has one as well. So I'm going to pull that one out. It's also got a protective piece of plastic over the screen. Now this one says CON, that stands for connecting. These come pre-synced from the factory, so we shouldn't have to do anything to get those to sync up. I'm going to go ahead and plug an air probe into this one so we can see how that's working. I'm just going to go with the top number 1 input. It says 76.2 here in my kitchen. And now this sending unit sends out a signal every 30 seconds, and that's to save on battery, save on energy. And but every 30, knowing your temperature every 30 seconds, that should be plenty enough, sufficient enough for almost any purpose that you would need. And it just, like I say, it just connected. So this says 75.5 now. This is reading 76.5, which is what it sent, the first time, and that'll just keep updating every 30 seconds. Now also on the screen here, I like the big, I don't know if you can see that, and I'll show some of these things that are important. I'll show an image of it. This has 4 channels, and of course the temperature is shown real large. It's right next to the temperature. It's got the alarm settings, high alarm, low alarm, and then just to the right of that is the min and the max. It'll show you what the minimum temperature of this cook has been and what the maximum temperature has been. And there's times when that's real handy to have. Sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 pork butts on the smoker, and one of them's just kind of lagging behind. And sometimes something like this could tell you that maybe one of those went into the smoker quite a bit colder than the rest, or maybe one piece of meat you put in was still frozen in the middle or something like that. And of course this would be a good way to know that kind of information. I'm going to go ahead and unplug this air probe for the moment. Now this has, the sending unit has 6 buttons on the bottom side. The first one is channel. That's just how you select which channel you want to change the settings on. Then it's got a set button, and of course that will, once you select your channel, that will move you through high alarm, low alarm, and alarm on off, I believe is how it works. And then of course you got an up button and a down button to make those changes. And you got a button here that's got a light icon. That will turn on the light, the backlight, and I believe it stays on for 20 seconds if you're cooking at night and need to see your temperature readings. And of course the last one here is a volume button, and you can turn that, I think it's got 3 or 4 levels. And then off. So it's got 4 levels, 4 volume levels, and then an off if you don't want it to make any noise. There might be times when that would be convenient. So looks like we have 2 magnets. Now the magnets on these thermometers are usually pretty strong, and I'm assuming these are too. It's got a kickstand that pulls out, where you can, if you want to sit that, you know. I do want to mention, you don't ever want to set this on top of the smoker. These are real heavy duty rugged plastic, but it still will melt if the top of the smoker gets hot enough. And I don't know what the melting temperature is, but as a general rule, I wouldn't sit this on top of the smoker. You know, a lot of times I have multiple smokers on my patio. So a lot of times I will sit this on a smoker that's right next to where I'm working, one that's not in use. And of course you can use the magnets on the back to, you know, to stick to it, or you can just open up the kickstand and sit it right on top if it's got a flat surface or a shelf. You could also set a table right next to the smoker you're using, and that would work as well. But that kind of sits at a, you know, maybe a something like a 30-degree angle, I guess, and allows you to look down on it and see all of your temperatures. So that's pretty cool. Now on the back, it's got 4 buttons that are kind of inset into this pocket here. It's got an on-off button. Now the way the on-off button works is you hit it one time to power it on. When you're ready to use it, when you get done with it, hold the power button in for 3 seconds, and it turns the unit off. It's got, right next to that is a button that's got that changes from Celsius to Fahrenheit, back to Celsius, depending on what you want to see. The third button is a calibration button. That's a button I've never used on any of my ThermoWorks products. I've never used the calibration button. These come pre-calibrated, and but you know, if you ever did maybe feel like you needed to fine-tune the calibration, you could definitely do that. And I'm sure there's instructions on the ThermoWorks website for that. You could also call their customer service number, and I'm quite certain they would be happy to walk you through that process as well. The fourth button is the sync button, and as you saw, these were already synced out of the box. So where that sync button would come in handy would be as if you were for some reason replacing this receiver, or if you were adding a receiver to this unit. Now this sending unit is able to handle multiple receivers. I don't know if there's a maximum number of receivers it can handle, but I know you can definitely have 3 or 4 at least. So let's say you have a barbecue team and you've got 3 or 4 of you, and you want everyone to have this receiver in your pocket. you can definitely do that, and that's where the sync button would come in handy. You'd order these, and when it come in, you would need to sync this to your unit, each one independently. And there's instructions in the manual for doing that as well. Now I did see another plug-in here. Of course, this has 4 inputs for your probes, but just below that there's a USB-C input, and that is for the bellows fan controller. And if you're not familiar with that, I have one here that I've used with my signals thermometer, and it's just a fan controller, and it connects to your charcoal type smokers. I use this on my Weber Smoky Mountain 22-inch. You can also use this on the Kamado type smokers, such as the Big Green Egg, or I think this would also work probably on the drum smokers like the Pit Barrel Cooker, Ugly Drum smokers, that sort of thing. And of course, I'm not sure, but I think on the ThermoWorks website you can get adapter plates for various smokers to make this work a little better. But it does have the bellows does have a soft edge here, so it can pretty easily attach to almost any charcoal type smoker, and you may have to finagle it a little bit. But what that does is if it blows, you can actually set a temperature here, and it will blow air onto the coals and keep that at the temperature you set. So that's something that will work. It's made to work with the new Smoke X4. This would not work with the original Smoke, but the new Smoke X4 has definitely got that built in. And of course, I'm going to look forward to trying that out. I've already used this quite a few times with my signals thermometer, and it works really well. So I look forward to using that. So that's another neat feature of the Smoke X4. Now, one thing I did want to talk about was I mentioned these are plastic, real heavy-duty, hard plastic, molded in plastic, I guess is what they call it. But these units feel really good in your hand. It's like they're heavy, but they're not overly heavy. They're definitely not lightweight. I've purchased really inexpensive thermometers on Amazon and different places, and they just feel almost hollow inside. They feel really lightweight, and it just feels so breakable. And these just feel solid. They feel rugged. It feels like I'm not going to constantly worry about breaking these. Now, I'm not going to be throwing these or dropping them, or on purpose anyway. But I feel like it could handle a certain amount of abuse, without causing any issues. And that's sort of a peace of mind kind of thing. But all the ThermoWorks products are made that way. They're just kind of heavy duty, and just feels good, and it just has that feel like I don't really have to worry so much about it. I can use this like a tool, and don't have to worry about it breaking on me halfway through whatever I'm doing. And I can tell you that most of the ThermoWorks products I have been using for years and years and years, and without any issues. And so that's just one of those things, you get what you pay for. And I've been using these products for long enough to know that they work really well and they last. So that's one of the reasons I am constantly talking about these products, because if you're going to spend the money on something, you're going to be feeding your family, and you're going to be spending a lot of money on meat. The worst thing that could happen would be to be using a really inexpensive thermometer, and it stop working halfway through your cook, and something gets ruined. Or worse yet, you feed your family or friends something that's supposedly safe, but maybe it really hasn't reached its safe temperature. So it just makes sense to have dependable tools at your disposal when you're cooking. Now that is pretty much what I can tell you right now about the Smoke X4 by ThermoWorks. I have not taken these out to the smoker and tried it out that way. I don't expect any problems, but I will over the next few days be taking these out to the smoker and trying them out on some actual meat that I'm cooking, and we'll see how that goes. I want to try this out with the Billows fan controller and see how that goes. And I'll be putting all this on my website, of course, as a review with pictures like I normally do. And I'll be linking just below this video to this product, and I'll also put in any extra specs or details that I think you might be interested in. I'll list all that out too. I appreciate you hanging out with me today as I take a first look at unboxing this Smoke X4 by ThermoWorks, and just kind of look at it and see how the buttons are laid out and see the functions and what it does and how it compares to the original Smoke. And this is Jeff Phillips with SmokingMeat.com, and I will look forward to seeing you next time.